Good morning, good afternoon, and good day, and welcome back to the Parc'd podcast by Parc'd. Welcome to episode 12. We have a lot to get through today because we're currently in the middle of a triple header. As you're watching this, it'll be Friday, so we're literally going into the third race of the triple header. So we're covering the first two races, which was Barcelona and Austria. Both very, very interesting races, to be fair to them. We also have, obviously, Formula 2 and Formula 3, which were both of the double headers. Formula 1 Academy, that was at Barcelona, and also Formula E, headed to Portland for the penultimate double header before the final double header, and then Formula E is done until season 11 in December, which I was actually thinking the other day. I was like, oh my god, what are we going to talk about during off-season? Because there's going to be a period of time when there's nothing. No, Formula E starts beginning in December. No, NASCAR. Formula E starts in December. Formula 1 ends in December, or like right at the end of November, one of the two.
Very late.
Yeah, and then Formula E's on December, January. Obviously, they only do like one race every month, which is really annoying, but it's what it is. But yeah, we've got to figure out what else to do in off-season. But at least we will have some sort of racing to talk about for the most part. We're going to start off with F1 Academy in Barcelona, because obviously we'll go weekend back first. F1 Academy headed to Barcelona for race 5?
Round 3. I don't know what race.
Yeah, round 3, race 5, and race 6 of the season. I was trying to do math then. I was like, I can't do that. It's not going there. Yeah, and F1 Academy, they're meant to have a wildcard round where a driver from that country, female driver from that country, gets the opportunity to step into an F1 Academy car and compete for 2 races. And for some reason this weekend they didn't, and I don't really know why. They didn't really give a reason. They just said they're not doing it this weekend. So qualifying wise, if you don't know what how F1 Academy's qualifying works, they basically go out, set times. The fastest time sets the grid for race 1, and the second fastest time sets the race for grid 2. But regarding their quickest times, Abby Pulling was on pole. Abby Pulling was on pole for both races, which makes sense. She has been phenomenal all season. Chloe Chambers crossed the line in P2. She started then P2 for race 1.
P2 for qualifying 2.
Oh, so she was P2 across both boards.
Yeah.
Slay. Dorian Parn was like... So, if you don't know, Dorian Parn fractured 1 or 2 of her ribs. Fractured her ribs nonetheless. Had to withdraw from the 24 Hours of Le Mans and had to withdraw from some FRECA rounds as well. And her first time properly back in a car was then for F1 Academy in Barcelona. So, honestly, insane that she actually managed to just jump back in the car, get on with it. She qualified. Her fastest time put her P4 in qualifying. This race weekend, and just I think this F1 Academy season in general for her has not probably gone the way she would really, really like it to go. Obviously, Abby Pulling is at P1 in the championship right now on 147 points. Dorian is P2 on 81 points. There is quite a large margin in F1 Academy at the moment.
She started off so great.
She did. I think
she dominated the CHELLE weekend.
Yep. Bearing in mind, she technically won both races until the penalty for race 2, because nobody told her the race was over, and she just kept going. And then a P2 and a P3 in Miami, still good results. I think the issue here is for her is the fact that obviously Abby Pulling has not once stepped off of the podium.
Nope.
She took P2 behind Dorian Park in Jeddah, and then had a streak of 4 wins in a row out of 6 races. So she won race 1 in Qatar with Nira Marti, who finished P2, which really, really good for her home race. I couldn't think of the word then for a second. I feel like, especially with it being her home race, probably felt even better for her. I know she was really, really excited to race in Spain. And Chloe Chambers took her third place in race 1 as well. She finished off the podium. F1 Academy's races are very, very, very chaotic. Very. I think obviously, as we were saying about Dorian Parr, how F1 Academy is just not really going how she wants it to go. Obviously, on top of that, she stalled on the grid in race 1. Coming off the line, she stalled. She did a phenomenal job to get back up to P7 in the end. Obviously stalled, went to the back, continuously fought up the grid. She had a phenomenal fight on her. She made some insane overtakes, and getting back up to P7 is a pretty good stint for that, especially seeing as how short the F1 Academy races are. They're only like 14 laps.
Yeah, they're really short.
It's wild. Alongside, obviously, Pin stalling, the other situation that happened was a collision in lap 1 between, oh my god, it's Maya, and I always butcher her last name. Is it Voig?
I don't know, to be honest.
It's Dutch! She's
No,
Dutch!
Yeah, I know, but her name isn't. I don't know where her name comes from, honestly.
But she's Dutch!
I know.
Dutch, Belgian, Spanish.
I'm pretty sure you don't pronounce her last name, because we don't have that.
She did a video and she was like, it was really hard, like, it's really hard to pronounce, but it's like, Vorg. It's not. It's like Vorg. I don't know, because have you seen, you know what video I mean? I think it's
it's the one where Dorian's like, it's Dorian Pa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maya and Amna Al-Khabaisi collided on lap 1, took them both out of the race. Almost caught Ariella Nobles as collateral in that. She managed to actually get away from it, but it did end Maya and Amna's race. Maya was at fault. She did get penalised for it. It was a 5-place grid penalty for the second race. And then, yeah, in the first race as well, Jess Edgar got a 5-second penalty for a false start.
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah. Race 2, though. The first time we haven't seen Abby Pulling win a race since Jeddah. As Chloe Chambers took her first ever F1 Academy win. She took the lead, I believe, into turn 1 in lap 1. Came across the line, headed up to turn 1 and got ahead of Abby Pulling and just led the race from there. She had such a clean drive. She also, if I do remember correctly, set the record for the longest gap between P1 and P2 in F1 Academy ever. She won the race by 7 seconds, which I do find that this season of F1 Academy feels less competitive compared to last year's F1 Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have Zandvoort, Singapore, Qatar and Dubai left. And obviously Abby Pulling's on 147 points to Pin on 81 points. And it's quite a large margin.
Yeah.
Last year we went into the final round with 3 drivers in contention for winning the championship. And I think at this rate, we're not going to get that.
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to get a little bit more competitive. There are more, like, we're seeing different names starting to score points as well. You obviously still have Abby Pulling up there at the top. You still have Pan, Chambers, Marty, Bustamante, Hamda Al-Khabaisi are all still in point scoring contention like they have been for the entire season. Maya had a absolute blunder in Barcelona after having podiums in Jeddah, 2-point scores in Miami to then nothing.
Yeah.
Jess Edgar, she's been fluctuating a lot. Tina is finally getting points. She had 2 retirements in Miami. Amna was on a decent streak. Once again, race 1 was not her fault. But she did ultimately come away from the weekend scoring no points. It's quite good to see Emily De Hoos Finally scoring points. She took 2 points. She took 2 races with points in Barcelona after scoring no points the whole season. So we are seeing some different people score points across the field now, and it is, you know, feeling a little bit more competitive. However, I feel like last year's F1 Academy was just so much more competitive, and I wish this year's was as competitive as it was last year, because now it's on F1, like on the F1 belt, now it's on TV. People can see and watch it properly. And it's now less competitive, and I feel like there's not as much racing. Like when we obviously watched it in Monza, there was so much racing.
Yeah.
And now it's just, I don't know. I'm not saying it's fallen off, but it just doesn't feel as competitive now. We've had, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different drivers on the podium out of 15. That's not including any of the wild cards. But we have only had 3 different race winners, which makes sense seeing as someone's won 4 of the races, but... but overall, decent weekend in Barcelona for F1 Academy. I'll tell you which series is competitive, but also not very competitive at the moment. Formula 3.
I love Formula 3.
I love Formula 3.
I can't say that enough.
Do we want to do? How do we want to do this? Do we want to do both Barcelona and Austria F3, and then do both Barcelona and Austria F2, both Barcelona and Austria F1? Cool.
I think I'll get
confused.
Too mixed up. Yeah, too mixed up to do it weekend to weekend.
Okay, F3 Barcelona. There is a lot of chaotic. We have, by the way, got this open on my phone because I don't have enough screens to have it open on my computer. These are all the notes that we have for F1, F2, F3, Formula E for the past 2 weekends. You'll see the different changing. Oh, there we go. This is where it ends. That's the last one she sent us, IndyCar. Right, the F3 sprint I wrote not a lot for Barcelona. I put Bedrin at 3 place for crash with voicing. Safety car.
Oh,
This happened as the safety car was deployed. So the safety car was deployed because of Sami Megatunev crashing with Sergio Ramos. Teammates, by the way, and they were teammates.
And they were teammates.
They crashed, pulled out a safety car for it, and as the safety car was being pulled out, Bedrin and Voicing crashed. So Bedrin got the 3 place penalty for that crash. Sammy got the 5 place for the crash with Ramos. Celeste, take your headphones off for what I'm about to say next, because it might break your heart.
Not the meaning.
I have to say it. No further action for Gabriel Mini and Sebastian Montoya for the crash.
My face, crashing each other out.
Yeah, essentially what happened is Mini was coming down, getting ready to go around the corner, and I believe he got a puncture, meaning he completely locked up as well, couldn't go anywhere, literally had to go straight off, managed to catch Sebastian Montoya as collateral in that and take him out of the race too. It did cause us to have a safety car, and then the race was just ended after safety car at that point. So I didn't write a lot of notes for it, but a lot happened. Technically, but it did mean that it ended with Christian Mansell stepping onto the podium again. I think Christian Mansell, personally for me, is somebody that going into this season right now, like going into the 2024 season, I didn't think we would be seeing as much of him at the front as we are. That's
honestly same.
It's not saying he's a bad driver at all, because I've always said that Christian Mansell is a phenomenal driver, and he is really, really good at what he does. I just wasn't expecting to see him like up the top where he is now. He's currently sat P5 in the championship standings. He currently races... oh my god, my throat. Currently races with ART. And ART are normally pretty good in F2 and not as good in F3.
Yep.
They do hold cars 23, 24 and 25, which means they placed last season 3 from the bottom. So, you know, they have Lawrence Van Hoppen and I pronounced that wrong, didn't I?
That's alright.
And Nikola Teslov there as well, which I do think ART are going to be a little bit close towards the top. They're currently sat second in the constructors right now.
It's alright for some ART cars. At least they're sort of high up in the standings. All I say is, like, my thing with Christian Mansell is I feel like he's always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah.
He's on the podium, but it's still like he hasn't won this season, has he?
Nope. That's why he was okay. So he finished P3 in the sprint race. His teammate Nikola Teslov won the sprint race, and Martinius Stentorn joined them both on the podium. He finished P2, and nope, that was sprint race Red Bull Ring. Okay, yeah. This is for this. Okay, so essentially after that race on Twitter, there were some people saying some not very polite things about Christian Mansell because of the way he reacted regarding the podium, because he could have quite easily won that. And I cannot remember off the top of my head what happened. Christian Mansell proving us all wrong. He's in the top 5. The sprint race, yeah, Mario Boyer won that one. Barcelona sprint race, joined on the podium by Oliver Goether in P3. Alex Dunn finished P2. First Irishman to stand on the podium of an F3 race ever? Question mark.
Yeah, GP3 and F3 altogether.
There you go. That was his first podium of the season. He took points in Bahrain and Melbourne, but apart from that, wasn't able to score points before that P2. The feature race. Why did I make notes for the feature race in F3?
You did.
Okay, I did make. Am I good? Okay.
You did.
F3 feature race. Let's see what Alice had to say. Okay, Mansell. Oh yeah, so Christian Mansell started the race. He was on pole position for the feature race. Where did he finish? P2.
Yes.
So there was a lot of comments on the radio of spots of rain that we never really saw.
Honestly, they got me excited every single time.
Every like 3 or 4 laps, it was there's rain.
There's rain.
There's rain. There's rain. Mansell managed to hold the lead for the first 5 laps until Arvid Lindblad took over. I was going to say took position. That also works. But it was ultimately down to the fact that there was just not much pace from Mansell in the ART. There was enough pace for him to hold P2, but compared to Arvid's little Prema, there was absolutely no way he was going to be able to catch him anytime soon. We had, really sorry to have to say this, but Gabriel Mini was struggling in Barcelona. Obviously, he retired from the sprint race and then finished 21st in the feature race. Definitely a weekend to forget, but he is currently P2 in the championship standings, so it's not over yet. It ain't over till it's over.
It ain't over. And not by much, to be fair, because he's on 95 points while Browning is on 106, so
that's not bad.
It's not too big of a gap, no.
No.
Well, I mean, that's F3. I've never seen a big gap in F3, to be honest.
I think it's basically impossible to be like too far ahead in F3. Yeah, by lap 22, Arvid Lindblad was over 5 seconds clear of Christian Mansell, so when we said there was no catching, it was nothing to do with Mansell's talent, it was everything to do with that ART machinery. Who is car number 27? When I make these notes while watching the race, so my god.
Veteran.
Bedrin. Oh, that makes sense. Casper and Bedrin beef. Push off track. I have to forward these notes to Katie.
I was like, who the fuck's this person? And she's like, who? Oh, Casper, I think. And I'm like, no, Alice, I don't need an I think, I need a I know. So.
Because she just goes K-A-C-P-R, because I was speed typing, I spelled his name wrong, I was like, Casper Suzuka, maybe? It was Casper Suzuka had beef with Bedrin. One of them, pushed each other off track. So, Fornaroli managed to push up to P3, which was really beneficial.
So much speed in that last stint.
Yeah, it was very beneficial for him to get that P3 for the championship, because he was at the time leading the championship. But Luke Browning has somehow pipped it the weekend just gone. That's how close it is. They went in one weekend, and Luke Browning only scored points in one race. It's wild. Van Hopen and Stenshorn were fighting at one point, and it led to Van Hopen getting a puncture.
Yep.
And basically retiring from the race. Quoting Christian Mansell, who came onto the radio to say that it's wet in the last sector, but we still didn't say any fucking rain. If I didn't see rain, it wasn't there. You can tell me you like the track is wet, but how is the track wet if there's no rain?
There was no rain.
And I think the last thing really, I literally ended it with Fauna to top of standings ahead of Browning at the end of the feature race in Barcelona. And Martinez Stenshorn got a puncture on the last lap. Oh my god, I wrote down, I forgot I did this. Would you like to hear the penalties for the weekend for F3 in Barcelona? No, F3 was the good one. Okay, F3 qualifying.
Oh yeah.
Stenshorn got a €500 fine for an unsafe release into the path of Fornaroli. Joseph Loeb got a €500 fine for an unsafe release into the path of Mansell. And Montoya got track times deleted. So much so that it took him from 10th to 27th for breaking track limits. In the F3 sprint, obviously, I mentioned Megatuniv got a 5-place grid penalty for causing a collision with Ramos. Bedrin got a 3-place grid penalty for causing a collision with Voisin, and Campos got a €2,500 fine for the non-nominated front plank used.
Nice.
And then in this feature race, Casper Suzuka got a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision with Bedrin, and Boyer got a 10-second time penalty for track limits 5 times. Now, if you are listening and you want to get a shot glass and a bottle of alcohol, please feel free. And every time I say track limits for the next 30 minutes, feel free to take a shot. It is Friday night after all.
You won't survive that.
I actually didn't note down the penalties from Austria.
80% of the field that are gone.
Would you like to discuss some of the Red Bull Ring for Formula 3 while I find the, what are they called? Penalties.
Penalties.
If you would like to. So Murray Boyer, Callum Voisin, Alex Dunn, and Tim Tramnitz all got 10-second time penalties for causing a collision in the Austrian F3 feature race. Car number 22 of Tommy Smith got a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits 4 times. Car number 15 is Martinez Stenshorn. Got a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits 5 times. And Murray Boyer got a 5-second time penalty for exceeding track limits 4 times. Sami Megatuniv got a 15-second time penalty for exceeding track limits 6 times. And to round it all off for that, Kian Shields also got a 15-second time penalty for exceeding track limits 6 times. And that was just in the feature race in Formula 3 at Austria alone. Yes, the sprint race had 0 penalties for some obscure reason. I have no clue why or what. There was no further action, no further action, no further action, no further action. And that meant that, like we discussed, Nikola Tesla won with Martin Stenhorn and Christian Mansell. And then Luke Browning went on to win the feature race at the Red Bull Ring. Gabriel Mini took P2, so better weekend for him. P2 in the feature race, P6 in the sprint race, and Dino Bogdanovic took to the podium for the first time since Melbourne, where he obviously won the feature race there. And they rounded off the podium. Christian Mansell just missed out on another podium, so he's having a pretty good time, I think.
Honestly, yeah, he's been doing really well.
Slay. It's nothing really exciting happened. So I love Formula 3. I found this weekend in Austria to probably be the worst races of the season so far.
Yeah, in a sense.
I feel like everything else has been like so much more chaotic and drama filled. Obviously, I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was the fact that obviously I was watching everything back, and the thing is that when it comes to anything feeder series related, I cannot watch it back without and be able to avoid all of the results. Like, I physically can't.
Well, the thing is, when I was writing the notes, I then went back to the start of the race and rewatched the race, and I was like, is this all that happened? Like, I feel like I've typed nothing in comparison to what we normally write. Like, there's normally so much chaos.
I think the fact that I was sat there going, nice, I can catch up with the feature race later, but I have to keep an eye on the docs because it's F3 and I always have 75 docs to go through of summons and penalties and non-nominated planks, and I had nothing for F3. That means they weren't fighty enough. And the one thing I love about F3 is that they're very fighty.
They behaved themselves.
They're what?
They behaved themselves.
I know! God, commit crimes. Do you know what was very fighty, though?
We did have 2 safety cars, though, in F3.
Where were the safety cars? Who were the safety cars? Which race were the safety cars?
We had a safety car after the first lap.
In
sprint race.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had another safety car towards the end.
Oh, safety car deployed. Dino Bogdanovic spins. Falls from inside top 10 down to 25th. Kasper Suzuka retirement and stranded on circuit after being collected by Bogdanovic. Safety car deployed. No wonder I tuned out! It's like when Celeste messaged me, she said, hey, so can you, if you're watching the racing, this is Barcelona, can you let me know which races are worth watching back as full races or which races I should watch back as just the highlights? And I literally said to her, for one, it was the sprint race in Barcelona, I said, F3 is really, really good until you get to this one lap and then you can just turn the TV off. But if I was you, I'd stop watching before the lap.
Lap 18, I remember. Specifically, it was lap 18.
And then I was like, yeah, don't worry, there's a safety car for the rest, so you can turn it off. You were like, thank you.
Yeah, and I did.
I was like, I did warn you, okay? I warned you.
I was like, nope.
What was the other safety car? Montoya makes contact with Dunn and spins at turn 4 out of the car and okay, but brings out another safety car. Once again, no wonder I tuned out.
My thing that I have a problem is when F2 race that I don't watch, my driver goes on and wins the sprint race. So I wake up the next morning in time to watch said F2 race, being the feature race. Tell me why in the first corner this man is innocent. He is innocent, and he gets fucking clapped by Dennis Hamilton.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
And I'm just sat there. She's going, please tell me, don't worry about watching the F2. And I'm like, Alice, it's too bleeding late. I'm watching it.
She was like, I got up and watched it. I actually have beef with both of these two people regarding watching races, but it's okay. We'll go on to F2 before I get to my beef. Remind me I have beef when we get later on. I don't care if you're ill. I don't care if you want to sleep to catch up with your sleep. I have beef with both of you because I had to celebrate on my own because no one else cared. No one else cared. No, you didn't. No, I mean, nobody cared. And you were asleep. So I had to celebrate on my own because nobody cared for me to celebrate with them. And all my boyfriend said was, you just have to celebrate twice as hard. No, I don't. I need people to celebrate with. The fuck you mean they're all asleep? Anyway, F2. F2 Barcelona was something. That's for sure. As Katie said, Victor Martins won the sprint race.
Yeah.
I can tell you now that my F2 notes from Barcelona got severely unhinged.
Yes.
But if you think my F2 Barcelona notes were unhinged, you should read my Formula E Portland notes. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's okay. Nothing.
For context, we watched it last night, and there's me. My TV was like 10-15 seconds ahead. So when I was getting things pop up, I was saying it to Alex, and she's going, "Wait, I can't type faster."
Because I wanted to see it happen as well. So, okay. So when I make notes, I make very short, snappy bullet points. The first bullet point I made for the F2 sprint race was very calm at lap 10. Because until lap 10 it had been very calm actually. And then it just says, Ollie car no turn, broken Prema again.
Yo.
That's like poetry.
Honestly.
I'm gonna... Okay. Lots of black and white flags were flown in F2. F2 in Barcelona was just black and white flag city, okay? Yeah. I'm gonna recap all of the penalties at the end because there was a lot of them. So Victor Martins completely dominated the entirety of the sprint race. He led the whole thing. And it was always with at least a second or more margin from whoever was in P2.
Never ending for losing that.
No, he was flawless the entirety of the sprint race. Can't say the same thing about the feature race, but the sprint race he was flawless.
What is fault?
There was quite the controversy with in Barcelona. So just know that we're going to be touching on some notes that could be a little bit damaging to some people's mental well-being. Juan Manuel Correa had a phenomenal weekend in that sprint race. He flew up those standings. He was charging up. He managed to get down the inside of Bortoleto to get himself up to P4. At this time, Miata was ahead of him, but Miata had lots and lots of penalties. So it was going to be dropping down. So Correa was in P3. Paul Aaron also managed to get ahead of Bortoleto. Bortoleto was running really, really well in the sprint race. All of a sudden, just went... And I have no clue what happened. He literally got passed by Juan, and then got passed by Paul, and then got passed by Jack Crawford. All in the space of, like, 2 laps, if that. It was just... but that was actually Victor Martins' best scorer of the weekend, of the season. The highest he'd scored before his win was P7 for the season, so phenomenal drive. Miata during the race got demoted to P8, so he was running in P3 and got demoted. And Juan Manuel Correa took 3rd on the podium for the time being. Until the F2 sprint race saw Juan Manuel Correa get a 5-second time penalty for track limits 4 times. Kimi Andrea Antonelli, a 5-second time penalty for track limits 4 times. Roman Stanek, a 10-second time penalty for track limits 5 times. Rafael Villagomez, 5-second time penalty for track limits 4 times. Franco Colapinto took a 10-second time penalty for track limits 5 times. Dennis Hauger took a 10-second time penalty for track limits 5 times. Miata, as we said, took penalties. He had a 10-second time penalty for track limits 5 times. And Zane Maloney took a 15-second time penalty for 6 track limits. So the order changed up a little bit. Obviously Victor Martin still won. Isaac Kajal was still P2. No, he was not. Wrong day. What the hell? What country am I in? There. Kush Miney took P2. Sorry, Kush. My God, I cannot read. Victor Martins took P1, Kush Miney took P2, and Paul Aaron took P3, which means, because of that P3, his statistic is that he has a podium at every single race so far this season. Every single, country this season. Right. So P3, feature race Bahrain, P2, sprint race Jeddah, P2, feature race Melbourne, P2, sprint race Imola, P3, feature race Monaco, P3, sprint race Barcelona. He then took P4 in the feature race, so he did keep
it literally goes, if I heard it correct, it literally goes feature sprint, feature sprint, feature sprint, feature sprint.
Yep, and then he ruined it in Austria by taking third in the sprint race and fifth in the feature race. We need words. But yeah, so very, very chaotic sprint race for Formula 2. And if you think it gets any better when we head to the feature race, it does not, because unlike F3, F2 have a mandatory pit stop. So, we didn't even get a flawless formation lap in the F2 feature race. Andrea Kimi nearly stalled. And then Stanek had to go to the pit alongside Kimi after everything. Paul Aaron got a phenomenal start, while Jack Crawford had a pretty bad start, but definitely improved. That's for sure. After that. And then the thing that Katie was not hoping for when she woke up at stupid o'clock in the morning, massive crash in the second and third corner, with Dennis Helger taking out Victor Martins. Yep.
Can't get you started.
Both the drivers obviously retired from the race. Essentially what happened was, I have it written down in Alice form, okay? So Dennis Helger climbed the curb, managed to clip Victor Martins, proceeds to take Juan Manuel Correa and Pepe Marti as collateral, but Juan and Marti were both able to continue on, basically unfazed by the situation. Victor Martins not so much, but at least there was only 2 DNFs instead of 4 DNFs, so...
Well, yeah, chaos.
And then once again the reports of rain starting happened, and we never saw any rain. So
rain again,
and sadly for Alice, because apparently I love jinxing myself, I put down better day for Ollie Behrman running P9 at lap 5.
Oh god.
Aaron then proceeded to lead the race by a 2-second gap, and then the drivers started pitting. There was 2 very, very different strategies. People who pitted really early on for hards, and then people who pitted really, really late into the race. The majority were the ones who pitted first. That was kind of the preferred strategy. A virtual safety car proceeds to come out because Taylor Barnard proceeds to stop in the pit entrance. The pit lane entry had to close because of it, obviously. And either way, you can't pit under a virtual safety car. Pepe Marti pitted under the virtual safety car, but it's a controversial one. Obviously, the FIA have to go by the rule book. Pepe Marti was on his way into the pit. Like, he was past the white line, so he couldn't just drive out and over because he would have got a penalty. But he didn't reach pit lane line 1 before the virtual safety car came, therefore it didn't count as a mandatory stop. He should have continued driving through the pit lane essentially and come around and pit again later on.
Yeah, they need to review that.
Yeah.
The rule of that.
The rule.
Because he's not allowed to drive out, but then he also is not allowed to stay in, and nowhere to go. Basically having to take a drive-through or something. It's weird. Yeah, essentially, if he'd have taken a second pit stop later on in the race, he'd have been fine, but because he didn't, he was not fine. Yeah. Sadly. Lots and lots and lots of battles going on. Aaron was chasing down for the net lead when he proceeded to just go off the road out of the final corner.
and drops down to 12th. He was currently running in 9th. Like we said, he was racing for the net lead. And at that point for the net lead, Jack Crawford, who was the net leader, was in P8. So he was net second, technically. Dropped down to 12th. And then it all just starts going downhill. Dirksen begins to slow from the lead. So he was leading the race on the alternate strategy. So he technically wasn't net first. He still needed to pit, but he was leading. And he just managed to slow down and bring out a virtual safety car. More safety cars. Aaron decides to then cut down the inside of Zach O'Sullivan and gets marked down for an unsafe rejoin. That was cleared. All good, all fun. Juan was then proceeding to lead the race, still needed to take his pit stop. He eventually pits on lap 28 with the remainders of almost the remainders. Miney and Marty both pitted with him, and then Cordelia and Anthony were left, and that was like it for the pit stops. Juan makes the best move and puts on the softs, and my god, was that man fast. He managed to climb back up and take the podium he so bloody deserved.
Yeah, honestly.
After the sprint race and missing out on the podium in the sprint race and then managing to get it back in the feature race was just chef's kiss. Phenomenal. He was joined up there with Jack Crawford in P1 and Franco Colapinto in P2. And yeah, it was so good to see Juan on the podium again. It had been exactly to the day 5 years since Juan last stepped foot on a podium. So, and the last time he'd stepped foot on a podium was when he finished second to Antoine Hubert in France in F2. So it was a special one for him, and I'm just so glad he was back up on that podium. Okay, I put a question at the bottom of this, which you guys can answer. Does Kushmini think this is Formula 1? You don't ask for track position in Formula 2. This is a series to show yourself.
This debate between those teams' drivers, the chaos, but especially because
I had the same question with the Red Bull Ring. This, like, because obviously Kushmini was demanding track position from Gabriel Bortoleto, his teammate, in Barcelona's feature race, and in the Austrian feature race, Isaac Hajar was demanding track position from Pepe Marti. The difference here is that Pepe Marti agreed to give track position to Isaac Hajar, but if Isaac could not clear him, then he wanted his position back. Like, he had to be able to get away from Pepe and start chasing him down. And Pepe didn't once leave his DRS zone. So he said, give me the position back. No, give me the position back. I only gave you the position to be a nice teammate. Give it back. Isaac Hajar refused and then proceeded to stand on the podium.
I just don't think F2 is the place.
I don't know where these F2 drivers are getting the idea that Formula 2 is a team sport.
Yeah, exactly. Because for people like just watching F1, it's very different in F2 because yes, there are teams and yes, there's multiple drivers in a team, but it's not like in F1 where they are like a team because they fight for their own. They fight to show what they can do and what they, why they should be in F1, but also because the championship is so open, and if you see the race winners and stuff like that, it isn't like a dominated sport, so you don't really work together as a team in that regard. So yeah, I don't know, it just feels weird to have that in F2.
I just think that if you're an F1 team watching the race, are you really going to hire the driver that's demanding down the radio that there is team orders? Because that's then that's what you got to deal with when they come up to F1.
Yeah.
like, we had a team order situation, or an attempted team order situation in Formula E this weekend as well. And the problem is the driver that was demanding team orders was going to his race engineer, tell him to give up the lead, save the power, tell him to give up the lead, and then he went, okay, do not give up the lead.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Because you don't want the drivers to take over sort of the team management role, or like the driver of the engineer, or like that's not their role is to drive as fast as they can. They shouldn't be worried about like that's the team's job.
I think Pepe Marti's race engineer handled the situation really well, because he literally just came onto it and said, hey, Hadjar wants to, change positions with you. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. Up to you. But just thought I'd pass on the message. And he was like, I'll give him the position if he thinks he can fight for it, because if we can get a win for the team, that'd be great. But realistically, in the next 3-4 laps, if he hasn't got it, I would like the position back. And he went, copy that. Hey, Pepe said he'll give you the position if you give it back to him in 4 laps. Yeah, that's calm. Brilliant. And then proceeds to refuse. So, sticky one. Obviously, Austria for the Red Bull Ring saw Ollie Behrman back.
Yes.
My God, that man has been through hell and back. That Prema, I don't know what is wrong with it.
He's had such a curse. He's
finally back up to somewhere. He's 14th now in the standings because of that win. So yay. Took a win in the sprint race. He really needed that. His best finish of the season. He finished 4th in Monaco sprint race. Took the win in the sprint race in Austria, well deserved as well. He was joined on the podium by Pepe Marti, finished P2, and Paul Aaron, who finished P3, to continue his streak of a podium at every single race going. That does obviously mean that Paul Aaron still doesn't have a win, but he said that he doesn't care if he gets a win in F2 or not. It's all about consistency.
So.
Exactly. All you need to do is be consistent and you're fine.
Yeah.
And he's being consistent and he's winning. Don't forget Stoffel van Dorn won the Formula E Championship with 1 win.
Yeah.
It can be done. You just have to remain constantly consistent. And you're going to be fine. And then the feature race. Gabriel Bortoleto took his first ever Formula 2 win. He is a rookie in Formula 2 this year, if you were completely unaware. I had a great weekend semi in Formula 2. My top 4 drivers being Ollie Behrman, Franco Colapinto, Paul Aaron and Gabriel Bortoleto, and every single one of them stepped onto the podium at least once, as Franco Colapinto took P2 in the feature race, and then Isaac Hadjar took P3, and Ollie Behrman retired.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just... yeah.
You win some, you lose some, quite literally. Won a race, then retired. It's been wild. There, surprisingly, right, there is not a single person in F2 without a point.
Oh.
Every single driver in F2 has points.
Well, Cordelia is still racing.
Rory Cordelia is P15 right now.
Oh, Jesus.
So, Rafael Villagomez is P22, bottom of the standings right now, with a 7th and a 9th. Roman Stanek is 21st in the standings with a P6 and a win.
Yeah, see, that's F2 for you. Crazy.
It's wild. And so P21 has a win. P1 doesn't have a win.
See? Welcome to F2.
Anything can happen.
Anything.
Yeah, Amor Cadillo has a P5, a P4, a P8 and a P7. Never forget when he almost won a race.
Oh.
It's definitely been a doubleheader, I'd say, to forget for Andrea Camille Antonelli. P15, P12, P15, P13. Zane Maloney, definitely a weekend to forget for him for Austria, 17th in retirement. He went from leading the championship by such a way to nothing.
You can switch so quickly enough to.
Crazy. Wild. Enzo Fittipaldi took a win in the feature race at Jeddah, and then didn't score any points at all until the feature race in Austria. So hopefully that may mean that he's back on to something. He was on for a podium. He was very, very close to getting a podium in the feature race. Just managed to miss out. A little bit sad because it was one of his many, many relatives that was handing out the podiums. I cannot keep up with the Fittipaldi family tree to tell you who is related to who and how, because they're about...
I think it was Emerson, there, but I don't know how if that is like great grand,
it's
or like
Emerson.
from the other side, or
Emerson Fittipaldi is his grandfather.
Okay.
You see a Fittipaldi come up in feeder series somewhere, and you're like, "There's another one, another one." Oh my god, there's another one!
Not another one!
Not another one! Do you remember Formula 1?
Hey,
I remember Austria. I didn't really watch Barcelona. I watched the first 5 laps, fell asleep, and woke up in the cool down room.
And I bet you were shocked to see Lewis Hamilton there.
Yeah, honestly, I was like, what the fuck did I miss?
From what I remember, I think it was quite a boring race. Like, when I say boring, there was like no, I don't think there was any yellow flags or any safety cars.
It's just, I don't think
there might
really
be a yellow flag, but I don't know what it was in. But
the thing is, because I woke up to the cool down room and I didn't see who was where, and I was like, did I miss a Lewis Hamilton win? I was like, what the fuck? Don't tell me I missed that.
Me, if I would have fallen asleep last race. Was Barcelona the one where off the line George Russell just went round the outside of both of them and stormed ahead?
That was the most excitement.
That was it, and then it was...
Hang on, let me get the article up.
Because Lando Norris was a pole. Finished P2.
Wally was good. On pure speed, like no show from Red Bull, it was just Lando Norris being faster than Max Verstappen, which...
Right.
Slay.
Scroll down through all the F3 and the F2.
Scroll with me. By the way, guys, if you're watching this and you ever want like full in-depth about any F1, F2, F3 or Formula E race or Formula 1 Academy race, you can head over to our website parcfem.co.uk to read a full write-up of everything that happened.
Turn 1, lap 1. George Russell. So Max Verstappen and Lando Norris. Fuck me, Jesus Christ! Are you giving me a migraine and inability to talk? I think you are.
I don't think migraines are contagious.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So Max Verstappen, Lando Norris doing a little battley battle, going into the first corner. George Russell just goes, nah, fuck this. Round the outside of turn 1 at Barcelona, takes the lead.
Beautiful.
Honestly, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful overtake. However,
Mercedes just don't have pace.
Yeah.
No, I still stand by that. Mercedes don't have pace.
Max Verstappen retook the lead on lap 3, and then I'm pretty sure just after that, lap 3 until the end of the race, he just took the lead. I'm pretty sure. There was drama between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. Shock horror, imagine. 2 weekends in a row. When Lando Norris drifted a little bit to the side, whether it was accidental, whether it was a defensive move, I'm not commenting because I don't want to be attacked online. But Max Verstappen put like one wheel in the grass and then was protesting that he got forced off track. Stewards looked at it, Stewards looked at it and then said no further action.
Stewards' favourite word is no further action.
Yeah, no further action or no further investigation.
Yeah. Like, sorry, you did something, no further action. Why?
No.
I don't want to look into it.
No. Although, if you're 0.1 mile per hour over the speed limit, have a penalty.
Fine.
Which, to be fair, I feel like, I know we'll go on to it for Austria, but going over the line on pit entry and speeding are like the two things that you cannot argue about. Mm-hmm. If you're over the speed limit, you're over the speed limit. That's a penalty. If you're over the line, you're over the line.
If you see like the notification of pit lane, like speeding pit lane under investigation, you know that's going to be a penalty.
Yeah.
There's no getting out of that.
Almost a guarantee.
They just have to inform you that they're going to look into it. And this is the thing, is everyone's like, why don't they just give a direct penalty? Because they always have to lodge everything as an investigation first. Like, it's just basically paperwork things, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Everything just has to be lodged as an investigation so the teams are aware of what's happening.
Yeah. Norris spent a lot of time behind George Russell, which UK commentators said that if it had got around George Russell earlier on at the start of the race, then he would have been up there for possibly the race win, because the time difference that he was behind Max Verstappen was it was basically the same as him behind George.
I just don't know how he just didn't get ahead, because the Mercedes don't have pace. George Russell can defend.
Yeah, George Russell was defending very well. But yeah, no, Lando admitted it in post-race interviews. He was like, I made a mistake. We should have got round him earlier. It cost me the win. He's also been ill, I'm pretty sure, the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's been a very moody man.
Yeah, everyone keeps asking him, what's wrong? How are you unwell? Like, what's making you sick? And he's like, stop asking me questions.
Yeah, the man has the man flu, and it is so obvious. Basically, Max pitted, dominant. He did have a slow pit stop, 3.6 seconds, which for Red Bull is quite slow. Not a slow area. But yeah, he crossed the line, won his 7th victory of the season, ahead of Lando Norris. But the best thing about Barcelona was a certain person on the podium, Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah,
so glad to see him back.
Love to see him.
Did you know he beat a new record? He beat a record originally set by Lewis Hamilton, but not the point. He beat a record.
Tell us what record, Alice.
Most amount of podiums in a Formula One career.
Also,
recently held by Lewis Hamilton and then broken again by Lewis Hamilton. He keeps doing that a lot recently.
He also... This came off of the website because I wanted to cross-check it, but it said it on the website as well. It was 18 consecutive seasons with a podium.
Yeah, he has never gone a single season without a podium in his career.
In my head, I kind of go, was it podium or win, which was the statistic that was lost in 2022?
Win.
Yeah, so it was the win one, and I was like, I need to...
2022, he stepped onto the podium in Brazil alongside George Russell to take Mercedes' first 1-2 since 2021.
Yeah, he had contact with Carlos Sainz earlier on in the race, but them two seem to, this season, have a magnet ever since Ferrari announcement. George Russell finished P4, 2 Ferraris finished P5 and P6, which was Charles in P5 and Carlos in P6. Oh, that was the drama on lap 3. There was Ferrari drama on lap 3.
Oh?
Yeah.
Oh.
Sainz tried to overtake Charles.
Because he thinks
this was, honestly, I was watching this going, what in the Alpine is happening?
And do you know what's funny? Alpine finished 9th and 10th respectively for a second weekend in a row.
Yeah. But yeah, they said no further and get investigation again. Yeah. Gasly 9-10. No, Gasly 9-10, I wish he had both.
9 and 10. No, I've never seen that in the history of my work.
Gasly 9, Ocon 10.
Yep, that's the one.
There we go.
Hulkenberg took 11th, Alonso took 12th, Zhou Guanyu took 13th, Lance Stroll took 14th, Daniel Ricciardo followed, and then Bottas, Magnussen and Alex finished 16th, 17th and 18th. Magnussen did receive a 5-second time penalty for a false start.
Oh my god, who could have possibly guessed that was coming?
Exactly.
You know what, I need Kevin Magnussen to never leave the sport. He brings so much drama. I love it.
Yeah. What was interesting though in Barcelona was the RBs. So they had their like major package update on the car.
Where?
Barcelona, and they did shockingly. Like they literally had major new update, and they finished 15th and 19th.
Well, that's not working.
What happened to Yuki Tsunoda?
Logan Sargent finished in 20th in a race that saw no yellow flags or retirements.
Woo! Good Logan Sargent! Austria was much more fun.
Oh, Austria was a race of my dreams.
Really?
Honestly.
Because
Yes.
Charles Leclerc took like 7 pit stops.
I know. Look, once we started that, once FP1 started, and I saw Charles, I was like, nope, out of sight, out of mind. Quite literally, because he was nowhere to be fucking seen. But as a fan of the sport, that weekend, that race, loved it.
I saw someone make a very valid point. The Barcelona in Austria was made up of the second drivers.
Yeah, fair. Although Carlos Sainz would argue that because he thinks he's the first driver, actually.
Anyway. George Russell won a race!
He did.
Oh, I love that man. So happy. Fucking, this is why you should always drive, you know, if you're not going to potentially be in a battle and you're just going to injure yourself by getting yourself into a battle, drive safe, drive sensibly, and just wait. Because
it's the way he said it after qualifying. He was like asking a question about what's your expectation for something along the lines of that, and he said something like, well, it's not much we can do. I don't think we have the car for a race win, but if Lando and Max do something silly at the front, I'll be there to collect the win. And he actually fucking did.
I don't know what is going on with Max and Lando after that.
I think we saw like a version of Max that we saw a lot in the early years of his career, and also when he was battling Lewis. Crash happened. I mean, I really hoped that he matured a bit in his racing, and I think he did, for most parts, but I feel like we saw a Max that we haven't seen in a long time, and he was just a bit...
I just thought the video that someone did of him doing exactly the same move to Lewis Hamilton, exactly the same move, like down to like the entry in the corner, it was just so like, this man hasn't learned.
It's the way he also talks about it after the race that makes me like,
yeah,
annoying.
Oh, it irritated me so much when it came over the radio, and it was like just the whole radio of, yeah, mate, we don't understand it. Like, he was clearly at fault.
Yeah, it was his team that was doing it, the same thing.
That is typical Red Bull attitude towards everything, is blame everyone before you blame yourself.
It wasn't like helping the situation.
No. Talking of radio messages, Toto Wolff. I got way too excited by those two taking each other out. He was like, it's the fact that he turned around and said, I should have definitely looked at the map and seen where he was before I came onto the radio.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you can... It's moments like that where you see how much it can mean to a team to win. Because it was obviously always going to be good for George to win, and obviously good for the team, but to see obviously how good it was going to be for the team principals. Because obviously George has only won once before in Formula 1, and Toto wasn't there.
Yeah.
So and just the fact that George was able to win Mercedes their first race of the year, first race since 2022. So what, a year and a half since their last win in Austria, Toto Wolff's home race. Like, it's got to be special. And just so happens, he did it because he drove a clean race, kept the pace from whoever was behind him at any given point, and just happened to be in the right place at the right time. He took home the points. Max Verstappen came home in P5.
Which is ridiculous to me. This is making me so upset. He's got a puncture in one of the first corners of the track. Like, what was it? Second or third corner after the long straight. He's got a puncture. He has to limp back to the fucking pit lane slowly because he's having a puncture. Then he's having to replace that tire in a slower pit stop because it always takes longer to replace a punctured tire. And then he comes back on the track. He gets a 10-second penalty, and he still finished 5th.
It's literally just because the front runners were so quick and got away from the pack so much that
obviously
he was able to pack and pit and everything and get back out there in 5th. I think Lando, I was saying to Katie earlier, the attitudes shown from Max and Lando at the end of it, I was quite shocked that Lando didn't go back out, because obviously they both had damage.
Yeah.
It was the way that Lando's car was retired because Lando asked to retire the car, not because the team wanted to retire the car.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt throwing the toys out of the pram. I'm upset because I could have won this race, and now I've been taken out of the race, so I don't want to continue the race. Retire the car. When he could have still got good points for him, for the team.
Especially Lando now being second in the championship. I mean, you need all the points you can get. It's very unlikely that anyone will beat Max this season again. But, like I said about qualifying, McLaren being actually faster than the Red Bull, McLaren showing incredible pace these last few races. I mean, you never know with F1. You need to get all the points you can get because it can change very quickly.
He is only 6 points ahead of Charles Leclerc right now.
Yeah.
So he needed those extra points, and even if he could come out and trail it back in 8th, that's still 2 extra points you've got over Charles Leclerc because he wasn't finishing in the points. So I would have liked to have seen Lando at least come out and try and get him the points. I get it, emotions and everything like that. Obviously, we don't know the full extent of the damage to the car. There could have been an issue where the car was just way too damaged. But I think the fact that Lando was asking to retire the car and not the other way around kind of makes it seem like maybe it wasn't to do with the car and to do with how he was just like feeling at the time. I do feel bad for Lando. It's a shit situation to be in. You don't really want your race to be ruined by somebody else. It's typical Max. We've seen it before. We'll see it again. He has made it always very, very clear that he's here to win. He'll do whatever he needs to do to win. And if you don't like it, stay out of his way. And that's what he continues to live by until he gets penalised for potentially being a bit too aggressive in some cases. You know, the one thing I do find weird is people coming on Twitter and being like, Max only got a 10-second penalty, so he didn't even lose 5th place because the person behind him was 16 seconds behind, so it didn't even affect his race. That's not how penalties work.
No,
if they give Max a 30-second penalty for that incident, and then, I don't know, a week later, Lance Stroll does the exact same thing to Yuki Tsunoda, they would have to give Lance Stroll the 30-second penalty as well. They wouldn't be able to just give him 5 seconds for it because...
No, you can't look at the gaps in the field and then decide, oh, we want a driver to have a negative benefit from it, so you're getting this amount of seconds, because then you would drop back to... That's not... No, we can't.
Yeah. It would either... Obviously, it might have been better for them to say, leave it until after the race, because then he would have got like a grid place penalty as opposed to like a time penalty. They cannot hand out grid place penalties during a race because it's just not how it works. But they had enough evidence they needed at the time to be able to penalise him there and then, and that's what happened. It sucks that you can destroy someone's race and still come home with decent points, but it's the name of the game, and don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder why we don't use like the stop and go and like drive-through penalties as much as I feel like we used to.
We used to use them loads. I feel like
and I feel
other
like
series
that actually
uses it a lot.
Yeah, I feel like that has more impact. Like, obviously, now it wouldn't have because the pack was so far behind, but I feel like time penalties, yes, they're good, they work, but I feel like a drive-through or either a stop and go, it makes so much more impact.
Yeah.
So I wonder why we don't really. I
wanna.
It's weird, anyways.
I want to do a really big deep dive into the FIA rulebook at some point.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to scroll up to my mass amount of notes that I have for Formula E.
Oh god.
Fair enough, that was chaotic as well.
Portland was
something.
Yeah, I think something is the correct answer for Portland. First things first, Oliver Rowland withdrew from the weekend due to sickness. CHELLE filled in for him, and essentially any other day of the week that would mean that Oliver Rowland's chances of the championship are gone and out the window. I don't know what spirit possessed them this weekend.
It was like anyone that is in like fighting for a championship, they were like, nope, not this.
It's almost like the championship potentials decided, no, it's not fair that Oliver doesn't get to be here to do this. Let's all have a shit show and just go from there. Okay.
Fair enough on that.
Yep. Mitch Evans took pole position for round 13. Jean-Eric Vergne took pole position for round 14. So, not much really happened in qualifying. Pretty boring, I would say. Qualifying was qualifying. Dan Tickton made it to the duels at one point. Nick de Vries made it to the duels at one point. Adam Mortara made it to the duels at one point. Portland was a mystery. Yeah, Tickton started P5 and Mortara started P6 in the first race. And when I tell you, Jake Hughes was having a flyer of a weekend. That man was so quick all weekend. He was flying off. Round 13, he was leading the race left, right and centre. He was just having a ball until the collision. Now, I don't think Mitch Evans should have got penalised for the collision because I don't think it was Mitch Evans' fault. Sue me. So, the collision, for the people listening. You have Mitch Evans driving along. This is Mitch Evans. He's driving along. This is Jake Hughes. He's driving along. He comes up the side and he gets ahead, right? So because he's ahead, he comes across. Mitch Evans kind of speeds up a bit and clips the back of his tyre, right? But as you can see, Jake Hughes has come up on his left-hand side. So he clips his right rear tyre. Yep. Front wing, damage, clips right rear tyre. Okay? Jake Hughes then goes in front of Mitch Evans, so he's now here. And he's got Jake Dennis on his left-hand side. They're going close together, you know, little tippy-tap, tippy-tap. And then Jake Hughes' left rear tyre punctures and he goes off. So obviously he collided with Mitch. Didn't collide with Jake Dennis, technically. They were like very close to it. And got a puncture on the side that Mitch Evans wasn't even on. I have a feeling probably the reason he got a penalty was the debris from the front wing was probably what caused the puncture in the left and right rear. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
But the 5-second time penalty did work out in the race winner's favour. Because if not, he would have lost. Not lost, but a lot of back and forth the entire race. Championship, the race lead was changing 24/7.
It was like a type of racing that was very... it felt a bit like Indy 500, like sort of oval racing where you don't really want to have to lead and it constantly changes until like the last few laps, and it was like a different kind of... I felt like I was watching a different kind of Formula E racing. There
was times where they were like 5-6 wide going into a turn, like into a corner. I was like, what are you doing? But one thing that was for sure in the first race in Portland, Jaguar were competitive and strong, and it was Cassidy and Evans leading the field, P1, P2, those final laps. Probably the final, I want to say, 7 laps. It was those two And once again, like in F1, the guy in P3 was just minding his business, chilling along. For a portion of this, Antonio Felix da Costa, bless his soul, was slap bang in between those two Jaguars while they were like bickering. And eventually Dak dropped back, let the Jaguars have it out with each other, because at this point it was very, very well aware that Mitch Evans had received the 5-second time penalty. So da Costa knew that if he at least hung back in P3, he's going to be on the podium, so he's fine with that, he's happy with that. Points for the team is what was needed. So he's letting those two bicker it out, and it's coming round, well, the last couple of corners of the penultimate lap when Nick Cassidy gets a little snap. What did I made a hang on, it says lap 26, Nick Mitch continue fight, Cass wide onto grass, spins off and out of race, 1 lap to go, snap of oversteer, missed apex.
Like you're rapping.
Yeah, Nick Cassidy lost his win. Drops down to 19th, scores no points towards the championship. Mitch Evans takes his 5-second penalty, which drops into P8, and Antonio Felix da Costa returns to the top spot for a back-to-back win, or a Dak-to-Dak win, as he took the win in Shanghai, and then a win in Portland. So that made his total up to 3 wins for the season at this point. Should have been 4, but it's what it is. Would be leading the championship probably at this point if it was 4. He was joined on the podium by Robin Frines.
Yeah.
This was Robin Frines' first podium since Diriyah, round 3. This was also his first time in the duels since Misano, so very, very good start to the weekend for Robin Frines. And it was also Jean-Eric Verne who joined the pair on the podium. He had a pretty successful day, I would say. He kept out of trouble, he kept it clean, and he took a podium for the team. As we said, Nick Cassidy took no points, Mitch Evans finished P8, and Pascal Wehrlein finished P10. So at this point, Oliver Odom was still sitting pretty comfy in P4 with not much to worry about with the guys ahead of him. Missed out on a weekend. I really do not know what was going on. It was a bit better for Portland, the second race in Portland. The championship leaders, it was Jean-Eric Verne who started on pole. Now, my notes for this, I don't know if either of you two have read these notes.
I don't think I want to.
Just have a look at the notes and try and.
I think I was reading them as you were typing.
I could like barely keep up with the race because I was doing 2 things at the same time.
Yeah, no, I was watching them pop up, and then you go, "Hang on, I need to make a new message because it's too long."
Yeah.
So much.
Oh god, it doesn't stop.
So it started off side by side into turn Dak.
Into turn Dak.
I'm assuming.
Don't turn.
I'm assuming it's into turn 1. Dak leads, blah blah blah. McLaren's quick and catching. Bird side by side with Frines, gets ahead because Sam Bird was speedy. Once again, McLaren's were quick. Obviously, Jake Hughes had to retire from round 13. Well, he didn't retire. He finished P21 after all the damage. And Sam Bird finished. Where the hell is Sam Bird? Sam Bird's there.
The thing is, on the screen, it came up with Hughes, and there was 2 others that were technically in the pits.
Yeah.
But hadn't come back out. But they just didn't retire the cars, so they still classified them.
Yeah.
But in the pit for like over half of the race.
This is where it starts to get chaotic. So just De Vries P6. Hughes 5th to 1st, turn 1, lap 2. Most amount of information I've ever given in a sentence possible. Yeah, this is what I mean. Jake Hughes, very, very quick. When I tell you they were like 5-6 cars wide at any given point, that if you were like 9th, you could lead the race by the end of it. Like, end of that lap. Like
it was giving
like,
Garno vibes.
It was giving what?
Garno.
Yeah. Yeah, this is where it starts to get really... In all caps, I spelled De Vries wrong.
This is where the question marks.
De Vries to P2, question mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Dak down to 6th. Buemi up to 10th with a bunch of question marks, because that man started 19th and he was now running 10th. Like, Envision, what did you do to your car this weekend? Because I'm here for it. Cass drops to 15th, spelled drops wrong. Lap 3, Hughes holds the lead. Hughes, De Vries, attack mode, lap 3, drops to P2, P3. Thank you. And then Buemi up to 3rd, all caps with a bunch of question marks. Tech infraction investigation, though.
Tech
Buemi leads lap 5, bunch of question marks.
leads lap 5.
Where front wing damage lodged under front wheel smoking, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, went into back of car.
I think that was one of the Porsches
Yeah.
that was dragging with them.
Where is Verline?
That was Pascal. Yeah, it was Pascal.
His
dragging his own wing under his car.
Yeah, his front wing came off, goes under his car, gets stuck, and then flings back into Bird and receives no further action. Monumental moment. CHELLE took his first ever fastest lap.
Nice.
Took his fastest lap on lap 7 in his second ever race. Oh, and then we go back to the question marks. With a bunch of question marks. Muller 4, Degrassi 7, lap 7, more question marks.
At one point they were like so quick.
When I tell you, the like underdogs were coming out of the woodworks in Portland, and I was so here for it. Like, they were here to stay. They could stay. And then a bunch of like mumbo jumbo about drivers going wide, where drivers are positioned, who's done their attack mode, and then Buemi drive through pen in all caps. Clearly I was stressed. Cass 17th lap 11, Jag nowhere today, because they weren't at that point until oh, and then here's the penalty, not the penalties, the mysterious pit lane of Formula E. Now, if you know Formula E, or even if you don't know Formula E do a thing called attack mode, where they come off a bit of a track onto a different bit of a track and take this fun little thing called attack mode. They have to go across a couple of sensors, and it sets it off, and they get some extra power. They don't do pit stops. So, you can understand my stress in this message when I wrote Den Dev Col Cass Pit, and then Y in caps, changing tyres with a bunch of question marks. This is an F1 with a bunch of question marks.
It's literally a traffic jam in the pit lane.
I did read somewhere else later on after that it was due to like damage. And that's why they were like all pitting and stuff and changing tyres was because of damage. And then Hughes went into the pit. And I said, Hughes pits, hopefully to fix his car, with a bunch of question marks. But, oh, Mortara hits Hughes, loses half of front wins. Not wings, wins. Yeah, so that was then both McLarens retired from the race. That wasn't the only person Eduardo Mortara got into beef with. We have the Bird situation again. Wet Bird, wet front wing damaged Bird, question mark, question mark, question mark. Can't find Bird thing above, because I was trying to scroll up to then add that information into the point up above, and I couldn't find it, and too much was happening at once. De Vries still in pit, bunch of question marks again. Mortara Y in all caps, bunch of question marks. Attacking Dak now, question marks. Goes off because karma. Clearly at this point I was not happy about something. I think I was unhappy with Sebastian Buemi because we have a sweepstake going and it had Sebastian Buemi, and I was like, brilliant, like this man's had at this point P2, P10 and P8, there is only points finishes for the season before this race. And then he led the race and then got a penalty, and I was like, brilliant, cool. End of discussion. Lap 16, Jeff somehow ahead, question mark, question mark, question mark. Finds to P4, question mark, question mark, question mark. I think it's because I looked down and then I looked up and somehow Jean-Eric Verne was P1. I was like, when did you get there? I looked away for 2 seconds. How are you there? Because that happens in Formula E. Oh, Hughes retires, lap 17. Dak leads the lead. Dak takes the lead. Dak takes the lead with a bunch of exclamation marks. Safety car lap 18, question mark, question mark, question mark. Debris on track and more noses going. Because they called for a safety car and go, it's so we can pick up debris, guys. And then they just start colliding with each other and creating more debris. Like, what did the marshals do to you? Which marshal hurt you? And then we got an extra added lap because of the safety car. Buemi managed to get back up to P10 at this point on lap 25. Obviously, he was running P1, had to take his drive-through penalty, was bottom of the grid, and then managed to get all the way back up again. Well, only to P10, but still. Pascal asked if Dak could give up the lead to save on energy, and Porsche literally gave him team orders to stay in front and not give up the lead.
Yeah. Don't risk the win.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Both McLarens and both Mahindras DNF'd from the race. And then I put, why no meatball for Verline? Loads of question marks. Penalties definitely to come, Alice, when writing, by the way. Just know we might need changes in AM.
Well, the penalty didn't come.
No further action for the broken car and the flying front wing. As you know, I don't even think it actually got noted. I don't think it was ever under investigation in the end. I still don't know why they didn't meatball flag him. Like, if your front wing comes off, slides under your car, gets stuck, and then flings out the back into another driver.
Yeah.
I think your car's fairly broken.
The fact that you got a P4 still is, with that, like, damage and everything, it's crazy.
I know. P3 was Mitch Evans and Robert Francis P2. Who was fun and notable? Jean-Eric Verne ended up P5. Jake Dennis was P10.
Wheeler in 6 with that out. Crazy.
Great job from him. There is still a high likelihood that Jaguar are going to win the team's championship over Porsche. They are currently on 322 points to Porsche's 289 points. I think Antonio Felix da Costa's comeback really needs to be studied for science. Retired from Mexico. Didn't score any points in Diriyah, a P6 in Brazil, a P4 in Tokyo, and then disqualified in Misano and no points. So whatsoever, no points whatsoever. P7 in Monaco, P6 in Berlin, and then a race win in Berlin, and then a non-points finish in Shanghai, and then 3 back-to-back wins across Shanghai and Portland. He actually matched a record for the most back-to-back wins won in Formula E. There is only one other driver who has had 3 back-to-back wins in Formula E. Can you guess who it is?
Yes.
No, it is Antonio Felix da Costa. He matched his own record.
Okay, Lewis Hamilton.
Antonio's in his Lewis Hamilton era, taking and matching.
Okay, I won 7 championships then. Come on, Mac.
He only. So, do they have to be world championships or just championships?
Well, let's do world, because then we still get a 7.
Okay, well, if it's world championships, then he's currently at 0, so
yeah,
get cooking, Antonio. In Misano, after the disqualification, we were like, oh, all championship hopes are gone. He said, not today. You thought.
Asked him in Berlin, when we didn't know about the Misano points, and I asked him, like, we don't know about the points, but you're like, I think it was 8th in the championship or 6th. I was like, what is realistically, like, what do you think is possible? And he was like, well, I just want to help the team, help us call, and, you know, to get some more points would be great. And now he is potentially back in the race for champion himself. Like, what?
Wild. He's got the most wins of the season so far.
Crazy.
On 4. Nick Cassidy's got 2. Mitch has got 2. Pascal's got 2. Ollie's got 1. Jake's got 1. Maxie's got 1. Sam Bird has 1. That's all of them. Le Mans vlogs are still coming, so keep an eye out for all of those, because they are coming in quick. There'll have been 3 posted by the time you're watching this. Day 1, Day 2/Day 3. Because Day 2 itself was quite short. We actually didn't do much, and we just ended up filming a lot. I think it's because we were all really, really tired and really cold, so we didn't sleep very well. So it's beginning of Day 3, and then Day 3 will be up when you guys are watching this. Not right now as we're filming this, but as you guys are watching it, Day 3 will be up. And then Day 4, Day 5, and the finale will be coming soon, so keep an eye out for those. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can get notified for all of those. Don't forget to give the video a big thumbs up, leave any comments down below, and let us know anything. Make sure you follow all of our social medias at parkfem_. Let us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can also check out our website, parkfem.co.uk, for articles covering Formula E, Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 1 Academy, and some little bits of British touring cars here and there as well. And yeah, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Ciao, beta.
Ciao.